What's up everyone, this is Kazio, and this will be my last video on progressive chess. Probably I might do one more that just talks about other variants and maybe goes over the history of the game, just give my final thoughts, but this will be the last one of any substance. So in the last video I talked about d4, and maybe I should just summarize the findings there really quick. My current thoughts are that d5 c6 is good enough to draw. d5 knight c6 is a maybe, it either draws or loses. d5 h5 is a maybe, either draws or loses. d5 f6 probably loses to e4 e5 bishop e5 check, and d4 c5 c takes d4 probably loses to a4 e4 e5, and d5 c5 probably loses to this. And I went over the other series. E5 he takes d4 probably loses to bishop g5 bishop d8 f4, and d4 e5 d5 probably loses to bishop g5 bishop takes d8 h4. So that's a quick summary of that move. E4 is similar. Most bad tries lose here. So first, in talking about e4, the first thing to observe is that white has violated my rule about making it easier to capture his queen. But the reason he's done so is if black were to play d5 here, notice that this creates a very powerful 3 for white, namely queen g4, queen c8, queen takes d8. This is a major idea. This series is extremely effective, and black won't have time to play bishop takes queen because everything's gone. And even though he takes this here, well, what could he do? He doesn't really have any moves to eat anything, and this is the main problem. So he's just down a piece, and even if he took one piece back here, for example, he would have just equalized material, and then white with 5 moves will be able to really have the initiative. So many black players, this was probably the most popular response to e4, was to play this series d5 knight c6, and the idea here was to meet queen g4 queen c8 queen d8 with a swarming try. King d8, d takes e4, knight f6 h5, and this series is directed against white's typical tries of bishop a6 takes a8, and the idea is to try to have an active rook, and simply to checkmate white if he allows it. But the problem here is that, and this was thought to be a very strong series all the way through the 70s, 80s, 90s, until in the semifinals of the Progressive Chess Championship in 1998, I had white against Zoltan Blachik, and I unveiled my novelty, which Linneman and I had worked out. d4, d5, d takes c6, bishop e2, h4. And this just seems to destroy this series. It creates a dangling pawn on c6 that has to be dealt with. And the bishop on e2 guards against all the mating tries. And in the meantime, white is his pieces are just poised for incredible destruction on the 7. The rook on h1 is ready to go. The bishop on e2 is ready to support a lot of checkmates here. Even the a1 rook can get out pretty quickly with other lines if he takes the h1 rook. So white has also stopped black's idea of possibly promoting the h pawn in some lines. So black just appears to be completely busted here. It's really hard to find. I haven't found just anything here. Every try that eats any sort of substantial amount of material gets checkmated trivially. So this series of the Italian chess champion Leoncini appears to be completely refuted. I can't find anything here. He probably has to play. Blachik in the game played a series that got checkmated, but that's just the way the position is. Rook b8, rook b3, rook h3, rook h1, but the king can't remain on the back rank, and this got checkmated trivially to this pattern here. So that appears to refute that idea, and the problem is if black tries to just play materially, it just doesn't work. So for example, here he's down a piece, so if he doesn't swarm, what other options does he really have here? So he had to spend the first move to play king takes d8, and really the only try he has to eat anything is knight b3, d4, b3 takes a1 or possibly c1. this is a reasonable try. I haven't analyzed it a lot. But I think that white has several tries here. One of the tries is to just play e5, e6, e take f7, f takes g8, queen takes d5 check, which doesn't get mated, and now white is up 6 pieces to 4, and the queen is going to take at least 3 moves to get rid of. And the king gets mated on e8 if he tries a series like king e8 or rook d8, rook d5. In addition to that idea, white may also have an idea like f pawn promoting on this square. Here the queen can be taken in mere 2 moves, so this probably isn't as good as the other series, which also took a knight, which is a more valuable piece than a bishop as the game goes on. And in addition to that idea, so this is probably sufficient too. And in addition, black could try, or white could try a series like b3, and then bishop takes the stuff, either f8 or h8 at the end. But I don't think this one is good because it allows black ideas ideas like this of promoting the c-pawn and ending with check, forcing white onto a really bad square. And even though the piece count's only 4 to 4, you got this problem of a queen and a rook scattered and are hard to get off the board. So I think one of the promoting series is probably a better attempt to refute this knight takes a1 idea. Again, the problem is when you play a move like knight c6, you're kind of or knight f6. You're kind of committing then to take a rook or a queen, with the knight, and so it's possible for white to kind of anticipate the series. I just think it's less flexible than moving pawns. So let's see what other ideas black has here. First of all, I should point out that if he tries to prevent this queen g4, queen c8, d8 idea, like play a move like bishop d7, well, then white can just take it, and this doesn't work out very well for him at all. What other moves could he play? D5 e5 is interesting. As we saw in a previous game, this has a sound theoretical idea against d4, bishop g5, bishop d8, that king d8, bishop g4, bishop d1, bishop takes c2, moving the bishop out of check, appears to be extremely strong for black. If white tries something like knight a3, c2, bishop a6, bishop e7, bishop a8, then the problem is that he runs into ideas with knight takes c2 check and then king somewhere. And the problem with series like this is black is actually able to reduce white to 3 pieces, which is not normally the case in a king d1, bishop a6, b7, a8 type series. He's not usually able to get another piece here, so black should be winning that. But the problem with e5, d5 is that white simply plays queen g4, queen c8, queen d8. And now black is, unlike knight c6, he doesn't even have a try to take anything. Well, I suppose he could try bishop a3 ideas. But one of the major problems with like bishop a3, bishop e2, bishop a1 is that this series does not get mated. f4, f5, f6, f takes g7, g takes h8, and not only has white taken a rook off the board, but he's made a new queen, and it takes at least 4 moves to capture the queen. So you have to assume here that since white is not getting checkmated on the 6th, that black is completely hopelessly lost here. So if there's no material tries, then black has to swarm yet again. So note that he could transpose to the Leoncini variation with the knight c6, knight f6. Oh no, he couldn't, because Leoncini variation does not play e5. But there is a swarm played by Gregor Bombeck in 1998, so we called it the Bombeck variation that we actually thought drew, which was to play bishop b4, knight e7, d5, d takes e4. And the reason we thought this drew was that it could meet this bishop a6, b7, e4, a8, king e2 series with a disrupting try of bishop takes d2, takes c1, king d7, knight c6, rook takes a8, taking 2 pieces and then delivering an extremely harassing check with knight d4. So we thought this was actually sufficient, and despite the 4-to-4 piece count, that the harassing check would be simply too annoying. But Kostas Prentos found the refutation, which is just to play so the 7 that a white refutes this with is just to play king takes bishop, king d2, so that's 3 moves, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a very beautiful series, and we see that black has to spend 1 move getting out of check, and even if he promotes in 5 moves, that's 6 moves. He needs 7, 8, 9 to eat everything on the back rank, so white will by force have a rook on his 8 or on his 9. And notice that black's rook can't get in here. Even if he were to play f takes e6, it can't get in on the f file, it can't get in on the b file. The pawns are both guarded by check defense. So it takes at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves plus the 1 to get out of check. So again, it's 9 moves to eat everything. So we can see that that's just hopelessly lost for black. So another key try is to play. I guess that's it for the reasonable d5 series. Well, no, okay, d5, d4. This is a reasonable idea. So black's idea here on queen g4, queen c8, queen d8 is to play king d8, d3, d takes c2, c takes b1, queen, and end up 6 pieces to 5. And it's like he delivered check because white will have to take this back. And his further idea can be seen if white were to just play a series like rook takes b1, bishop takes a8, and then he were to just play e5 or d4, then black has series where he plays c5 takes b1 queen and either plays e6 or king c7 depending on what white does. But the problem is that for his spare move, white has a magnificent spare move here, h4, and black's problem is this mates every series where black takes c takes b1. He now gets mated because this rook can come in 1 move faster. In addition to this pawn, there are lines where the pawn can checkmate on f8. So that just appears to be busted. Black doesn't appear to have anything here. And let's see, there's really only 3 tries left, no, 4 tries left to look at. So e5, knight h6 is a very natural move. As we've seen before, knight h6 runs into some trouble, basically because it's just very inflexible. And one thing to note is, let's suppose, for example, the problem with this series is, of course, d4, bishop g5, bishop d8, and the problem now is, what's the knight going to do? Like, okay, so if we go king d8, knight g4, knight f2, knight d1, one of the problems with this way of taking the queen off is it took 4 moves to take the queen off. But d5, bishop g4, bishop d1 is a much better way to get the queens off, because in general, you know, moving the d pawn helps the king, moving the bishop helps the king, because you're just making more open squares around your king, so that he's not as likely to be checkmated. Although you would like to move the c pawn also. But this is actually interesting here. One line, for example, is if white does something like king takes d1, bishop a6, bishop takes b7, bishop a8, king e2, then he walks into this amazing series, which is to promote on a1 and then play bishop a6 check. And here we see that the bishop actually, by taking with the knight, he gave himself an additional option. And bishop a6 check is really strong. It guards against mates by just getting the bishop off the square, so it now also delivers check, saving a move in, and is covering c8, which is a key mating square. And since this doesn't get mated, black is doing really well there. But when analyzing this idea of taking this way, I found this strong idea, which is to take the rook on h8 with the knight. It's kind of ironic. Black is moving his knight, so white moves his knights also rather than bishops. It's important to note that taking on e5 runs into checkmating patterns with bishop b4 and the other rook. So we don't take that way. We go